Harris Chaudhry, founder and executive chairman of InnovaDerma, is with me in the studio. Harris, good to see you. Welcome.
Very good, thank you, Andrew. Good to be here.
Introduce the company to us first of all. Tell us a little bit more about InnovaDerma. What are you about?
InnovaDerma is a young company. We came into being essentially only 3 years ago. The company came about off the back of us looking at the next trend in beauty and vanity space, the growth of the social media platform, the fact that people are engaging a lot more in online media space. So we created InnovaDerma. It is essentially a UK-based developer of clinically proven products in life sciences, beauty and personal care space. We develop them. We have got a very good eye for acquiring almost end-of-life brands and scaling them. So we have done quite good in the last 3 years since we came into being.
You've done very well indeed. We'll talk about some of those numbers in a moment. What are some of the brands that you've got?
Our key brand, the brand which has effectively given us the most exposure, the brand which is kind of really well known in the industry globally is Skinny Tan. Mm-hmm. We acquired Skinny Tan in May of 2015, almost exactly two years ago. So when we acquired Skinny Tan, it was it had done really well. It was in Dragon's Den. It had one of the most successful pitches by the founders. So the sales went up like that, and off the back of the Dragon's Den noise, and then it effectively came down. The founders or the previous management, they couldn't really execute a solid long-term strategy to monetize on the brand value they had in there. So we actually came in, and by the time we actually came in, company was technically almost insolvent. So we acquired the company. Within 6 months, 8 months, we grew the revenues 15 times. We took it from 200 doors to almost 2,700 doors in 9 countries. That's done really well. So it's one of the fastest growing brands globally in bronzing and self-tanning space. Mm-hmm. That's one. We acquired, the first acquisition we did was for Limo, which was the world's first handheld device containing laser and LED, clinically proven to reduce hair loss in both men and women, and they had published results. So the reason we actually acquired Limo was to leverage the technology that it had and have another next generation of wearable hair loss devices, which we expect to have the FDA approval later this year and launch globally. After that, we did some very good acquisitions in terms of 2 brands. Men's skincare called Charles & Lee, and a color cosmetic brand called Stevie K Cosmetics, developed by the same person. So we acquired them. We essentially paid 30,000 sterling for it. The whole brands, very good, great packaging, great branding, great story, and we're looking at leveraging them. We also did an acquisition of Prolong, which is the world's only FDA-approved device for premature ejaculation in men. Massive market, 1 in 4 men suffer from it globally. Mm-hmm. So, and then we just launched, in the last RNS we announced, we launched a skin brightening and skin whitening 3-in-1 product, which we have just launched in Korea in 600 retail stores. So essentially quite a few brands.
And that's a big market in Korea.
This is actually a very big market globally. I mean, you're talking about a market which is worth more than $20 billion per annum, and essentially almost 25 times bigger than the bronzing or self-tanning market. That market additionally is not seasonal. So, and that is really the space globally where we want to make inroads in the next few years. The growing economies globally, the largest obviously population center globally. So we are looking at the products that we can develop with a very good USP and launch them into multiple markets like Korea, Japan. You've got the Northeast and Southeast Asian markets, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Taiwan, and so forth.
So you've been, Asia's a big focus for you. You've done very well in the UK, but the US especially is the next big growth story for you.
US, I mean, we actually got into US. Essentially, we started in November, December. We launched Skinny Tan on what we call the D2C platform, which is a direct-to-consumer platform. Since launching in US, we are growing our revenues month over month, quarter over quarter, which has done really well. We got into GNC into 600 stores. We got into Harman, 500 stores there. We are obviously negotiating with some of the largest companies in terms of the next ranging we are going to have with multiple brands. So USA, world's largest market, world's largest beauty market. and is on very much on the radar.
Certainly. You mentioned D2C there. It's probably worth sticking with that for a moment, because that's important for you. And it's not just as simple as having a website and selling your products directly, is it?
No. Well, I wish it was. What we were able to do when we actually look at the global trends, we look at the social media engagement, we look at how people interact, especially in the all things vanity. One of the key trends is that the bricks and mortar spend obviously is going down globally, but more so in the beauty space because people have got so much access and awareness and content online to look at the beauty products and personal care products. So the obvious question was, as soon as we acquired Skinny Tan, the first thing we did was to understand who the core target audience would be for us. In order for us to understand that, we started creating a platform, essentially you can call it a technology platform from our end, so that we can run multiple campaigns for the Skinny Tan products into different markets, especially in the UK, being the home market for us, and Australia. So in brief 2 years, we have learned a lot. We have scaled the campaigns. We have got 220,000 unique clients through the brand, through what we effectively learned and developed. I haven't seen any other brand in an industry globally which has had that sort of growth. So, which really means that we can now engage. We own the client. We know where they live. We know their contact details. We know what they spend, and we've got a really good relationship with those clients now, and they're actually growing. We are doing around 20,000 unique deliveries per month for Skinny Tan, just between UK and USA at the moment. So that has obviously given us very significant growth trajectory. It is more than half of our total sales, and what it actually does is it essentially delineates or de-risks our exposure to retail and give us the ownership of and all the information for that client base. And additionally, it has created massive footfall in retail. When you got into Superdrug, we became a #1 brand in Superdrug within 12 months. And that was through our ability, using DTC, to create footfall.
I can't help but notice you mentioned the word growth numerous times. I think I've lost count in the last couple of minutes. So clearly an important part of the story here for you. And much of it, I would assume, is down to the skills you and the rest of the management team bring. Remind us about your own background.
Look, I actually am a very, essentially living out of a suitcase last 15, 20 years. I've been very sector and industry agnostic. My brief had been essentially looking at multiple companies that I work with in senior management roles, from document management to software companies to emissions management and consulting companies. The brief had been very clear and very simple. If there are operations in any part of the world for that company, public or private company, then let's streamline and see how we can efficiently create more value for the shareholders. If we don't have operations in a part of the world which could be very profitable, which could be very productive, which could provide additional value either for the shareholders through equity increase or through the profit, then we need to go and establish those operations. But at the core of it, it has to be very nimble, very agile. We try to outsource the risk of investment to third-party partners, and then try to, from there onwards, create value back in the company.
I think you mentioned it to me before. The story's just begun for you.
Absolutely.
3 years in the making. What can we expect over the next 12 months?
Growth, profit, launching brands in multiple markets, expanding our horizon, identifying where global growth spots are, working very, very closely, nurturing our retail partners. Obviously, as a consequence of that, we see our company growing. The markets, the brokers have obviously put in a note in terms of what they expect the company to do next year, which is 14 million top line and 2.6 million profit. But obviously, as we have done in the past, we are all about exceeding market expectations. We don't see it changing.
And one thing we didn't touch on, of course, you're here in London. You've been on a number of roadshows over the last couple of weeks. What's interest been like from investors and institutions?
I've been on the road. I come to London very frequently, almost once here every 6 weeks. You go back to the same investors. When we came to the market September last year, essentially, the drill. You actually go there, you just end the startup with another aspirational story, high on energy and octane, and they've seen it all, they've heard it all, and say, yeah, well, we'll see. Our ability to create growth month after month. I mean, this financial year, the last 5 months, 4 months have been record-breaking months. We have turned a corner. We are making profits. We have announced profits. We are acquiring more brands. So when you actually keep sharing your journey with specific KPIs and milestones with the same investor, they actually then start taking you seriously. And now, obviously, in this visit, a lot of interest.
Very good, Harris. Good to see you. I wish you all the best. Thanks very much for coming in to see us.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Lovely to see you too.